Hey guys, my name is Katie. This is my first YouTube video. For this video, it's basically going to be an introduction of myself and my favorite products, how I use them, and just my go-to everyday face. It'll be kind of an in-depth tutorial. For my future videos, I plan for them to be a little bit quicker and a little bit more sped through, but this one's going to be a lot more in-depth and telling how I use my products and what I use and, just my go-to everyday face. I'll be starting off with my brows. And for my brows, I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz pencil in the shade Auburn. This is what it looks like. What I do is I usually just grab a little compact and I map out where I want my brows to be, and then I go back and fill them in afterwards. But we'll go ahead and get them mapped out. Once I get my eyebrows basically drawn out how I want them and where I want them, I'll go in and brush my little hairs down since I only have half an eyebrow. But I brush them down and start to fill them in. I use downward strokes, especially on the hairs, that way they don't get clumpy. Once I do that, I take the spoolie end of the pencil and then I just start to blend it out. That way the front of my brow doesn't have such rough edges. Once I get my brow placed where I want it and filled in, I usually go in with the shade Roxanne from the Jaclyn Hill First Volume palette. Basically what that does is it just gives the Brow Wiz a little bit more of a red tint. That way it matches my hair a little bit better. It's not required for anyone to do, but if you want a little bit better pigment, I do recommend it. For this, I am using the Morphe X Jeffree Star JS7 brush. This is what it looks like. It has the angled tip on the end, and then on the other side it has a nice little spoolie. I just brush the hairs back down again, and I dip into that shadow and start to fill. Once I get that done, it is looking a little bit rough, but I'm going to use the spoolie side and blend the front of it again. And I'm just going to dip back in and kind of fix this top line a little bit. Next, I'm going to be using the Juvia's Place concealer. This will be to conceal the bottom of my brow to get that sharp edge. This is in shade 24. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take a flat end brush. It's really thin, that way you can get very crisp lines. But I'm going to be taking this flat end brush and just getting a little bit of product on it. And then back with my little compact, I'm going to be just concealing around that and carving that brow out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back off camera, finish up the other brow, and conceal the tops of them with the Maybelline 24 Hour Foundation. I use this in shade Fair Porcelain. Okay, so now that I've got both my brows on, I've went ahead and primed my eyes with the Juvia's Place concealer, and I just went in with a damp beauty blender and blended that out. I like to leave my base tacky, that way the shadows come out a little bit more pigmented, but I'm going to be using the Morphe 25A palette. I catch myself reaching for this palette a lot, especially if I'm in a hurry and just trying to pump out something quick. It is definitely one of my favorite palettes that Morphe has. My daily go-to look is a little bit darker and a little more dramatic than most people's go-to look. So what I like to do with my shadows is I like to go in with the darker color first and then kind of blend that up, because for me it's just easier to blend that way. But I'm going to be going in with this darker shade right here, and I'm going to be applying that into my crease. And basically what I do is I just kind of like wiggle the brush back and forth. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to place that shadow where I want it before I start to blend. So it looks a little bit rough at first, but we're gonna go back and fix that here in a minute. Okay, next I'm going to be going in with this shade right here. It's a little bit lighter, and this is just a brush that I got from AliExpress. I got it years ago, but it's one of my favorites. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the 50-50 method to blend half of the dark shade up to half of the base that has not been touched yet. Okay, last I'm going to be using a little bit of a fluffier brush with this shade right here. And I'm going to be going in and blending the edges of that shadow. Okay, now I'm going to be going in with that darkest shade one more time just to kind of blend that back up, because as you're layering those lighter shadows, it's going to kind of take away from that darkness. So I'm going to go back in and just kind of blend that back up a little bit more. Okay, so once I get my base shadows placed where I want them and blended all the way up, I usually take some Vaseline on a brush that's kind of flat. It's sort of like the one that I used to carve my brows out with. This one is the Morphe x Jeffree Star JS11. I'm going to take a little bit of Vaseline on that brush and then kind of just map out where I want my cut crease to be. For this look in particular, I don't typically do a defined cut crease. I just kind of smack on the shimmer. But basically what I'm going to do is just apply the Vaseline everywhere that I want to take off the shadow. So for this look in particular, I'm going to place it kind of like everywhere. I'm not going to put it in a cut crease shape this time like I usually would. Now once I've got that Vaseline placed where I want it, I'm going to take a Q-tip and then I'm just going to kind of remove the shadow from where I don't want it. Now that I've got that mapped out, I'm just going to kind of take my finger and dab it, that way it's not so wet. And then I'm going to take the same brush that I carved my brows out with and my Juvia's Place concealer one more time and just place it onto the lid where I want my shimmer to go. I know we're looking a little crazy right now, but I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to blend that out. That way the base is still tacky, but it's not so cakey. Alright, now once I've got the base for that shimmer mapped out, I'm going to take a smaller detail brush and my Morphe Luminous setting spray and wet that a little bit. I'm going to go in with this shade right here and I'm going to put that everywhere that I've applied that base. Okay, so I went ahead and did my other eye off camera, but since I'm done with both eyes, I'm going to go ahead and take my micellar water on another Q-tip and I'm just going to use it to fix a line on my eyeshadow. And I'm using that to basically just clean it up so that whenever I do my foundation, there's already a line there. And since I'm not doing a wing with this look, it kind of gives the illusion of one. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and use my Wet n Wild Mega Liner to line my lash line. Okay, so once I finish that, I go in with a black shadow from the same palette that I used and a smaller brush and dip into that shadow and just kind of smoke out the edge of that liner. Okay, so off camera, I curled my lashes and put on some mascara. Now I'm going to use the Kiss Strip Lash adhesive. This is what it looks like on my lashes to attach them. I've already put the glue on the lashes. What I'm doing now is just letting them sit and get tacky. What you want is you want the glue to not be completely dry, but you don't want it to be wet either. So now that my glue is about to that consistency, I'm going to go ahead and stick them on. So now that I've got my lashes on, I'm going to use my Ofra and Nikkie Tutorials Glazed Donut Highlighter, and I'm going to apply that right on my brow bone. So now that I have my eyes finished, I'm going to go ahead and start on my face. And to prime, I use the e.l.f. Putty Poreless Primer. It is amazing, my holy grail. But I went ahead and put that on, and now I'm going to use my L'Oreal Infallible Concealer to conceal my under eyes and my acne spots. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let that sit for a few seconds and get to a bit of a drier consistency. That way I get a little bit better coverage. So once I get ready to blend that out, I'll use my foundation brush to just kind of blend that a little bit underneath my foundation before I go and put that on. Okay, so now that I've got that blended out, I am going to go in with a couple pumps of my Maybelline 24 Hour Foundation again on a wet beauty blender, and I'm just going to go ahead and blend that out. Okay, so once I get that all blended out of my face, I know I look crazy and colorless, but to add a little bit more color to my face, I'm going to contour with the Morphe concealer. It's in shade C415, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dot it where I want to contour my face. And then going to use a brush to blend that out. Alrighty, once I've got that done, I'm going to use my e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer in the shade Fair Warm right under my eyes and right through here. What this does is it'll brighten up my face a little bit because this concealer is a tad bit lighter than my skin tone. But I'm going to blend it out, and it's going to basically highlight those features for me. Okay, so now that I've got everything blended out, I'm going to go in with my Airspun powder and a large face powder brush and just kind of powder over everything and set my base. So now that I've set my base, I'm going to use my Kylie bronzer. It's in the shade Khaki, and I'm going to use that basically to bring the color back to my cheeks and my forehead. And this is a Morphe M523 brush. So once I've finished bronzing, I'm going to use my Bare Minerals Gen Nude blush in Call My Blush, and I'm going to use that on my cheeks. I usually use it across my nose and a little bit on my forehead and my chin too. Last, to bring it all together, I'm going to use my big fluffy powder brush one more time, and I'm just going to kind of blend that all together. Before I go on with my highlight, I like to go ahead and use my setting spray all over my face to kind of melt all the powders together. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. So once I finish that, I like to go in with my Wet n Wild highlighter. It is one of my favorite highlighters. It is the Precious Petals. And then once I finish that, I like to go in with a smaller fan brush. This is the Morphe M310. And I go in with another Wet n Wild highlighter. It is actually the loose one. It is absolutely gorgeous, extremely glittery, and it's honestly probably my favorite highlighter of all time, especially paired with the Precious Petals highlighter. And so I like to go back in with my powder brush one more time and just kind of tap that because that highlighter is a lot. But I just tap it back in, and then I use my setting spray one more time. So once I complete my face, I like to go back in with this small brush one more time in my black and the darker brown shade that I used earlier, and just apply them to my lower lash line. And to completely finish up my eyes and pull it all together, I'm going to go back in with that Wet n Wild loose highlighter that I used earlier and pop that on my inner corners. To finish out the look completely, I'm going to use the NYX Suede lip liner in Free Spirit. It's really pretty. I'm going to use that to line my lips. Okay, and then over top of that, I'm going to use the NYX Soft Matte Lip Cream in London. So it looks like it's a beautiful nude. I use it with almost all of my looks. It's my go-to nude. Alright, so that finishes up today's look. Later this week, I am going to be posting some more eye looks, but they're going to be a little bit more up close and personal, and probably something a little bit more fun and creative, rather than just that basic everyday look for me. But thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and head on over to my TikTok and Instagram and leave me a follow. They're both at KBlairMUA. On my TikTok, I do a lot more fun, creative things on there. If you'd be interested, leave me some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.